Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from our Market Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Wednesday, December 11th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purpose only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So let's start with how we started the day, which essentially flat. We started to kind of ramp a little bit into the 830 number for today, which was the CPI number. So I'm going to just cover this really quickly. The number came in on the screws. Everything was basically on the screws today. CPI month over month, 0.3% versus expectations, 0.3. CPI euro, again, the year over year number is just basically a drop off of the last 12th month, an addition of the new month, and then you can look at all the other previous monthly CPI numbers, and that's where we come up with 2.7%. Again, there's nothing rocket science behind that. It's just adding the previous 11 months with the new data, which is 0.3, and that's how you arrive at 2.7. I mention this because there's a lot of sometimes headlines that talk about the year over year number, and really what's most important is the new number. So you would think, so a couple of things that I said in yesterday's video. I said if the number came in lighter than I thought that this was a high number, and it is a high number. 0.3 is meaning, now if you analyze the 0.3, right, you're going to get 3.6. So if we continue to have months of 0.3% that are churning out, then the annual rate will be 3.6. Again, that's not what you have here for the CPI year over year, because again, it's just a compilation of the last 11 months plus the new month. But 3.6 is pretty hot, and again, it shows that inflation is not decreasing. Inflation has not been going down. Inflation has been staying high. Now, again, it's not as high as it was a year and a half ago, but it is still ticking higher. So in any event, why did the market? So number one, we did not get a big small cap move today because the number wasn't conducive to that. Like if we came in 0.1 or 0.2, then I think we had a bigger chance. Now, small caps did okay today. They were up 0.4 of a percentage point. Why did the market rally on this number? So again, you kind of have to get a little bit in the weeds with this, but I think, again, it's all about expectations, right? The expectation, I think people were a little bit afraid that the number was going to come in even worse than that, worse than what we got. And that means that no rate cut coming in December. That wasn't the case. The number came in line, and it looks like the Fed is going to cut interest rates one more time before the end of the year. Now, do I agree with that? Probably not. There's a lot of other market dynamics going on here, and I don't want to get into politics here, but the Fed cutting interest rates is one thing. I've talked about this in a previous video that, basically, whenever this rate gets this high as we are right now, it normally bring this up here for max amount of time really quick. Again, I'm trying to go through some of these concepts really quick, but whenever we're around this 5%, and you could overlay with the S&P, usually the market does come down eventually. So I think that's why they're not allowing the rate to stay up here that high. There is a lagging effect here. But the other political reason is, why why the high interest rate hasn't had an effect till now is because the governments are running really high deficits, and they are continuing. Remember, there's monetary policy, which covers interest rates and short-term interest rates, right, which is the overnight rate. And there's also, that's monetary policy. And then there's the fiscal policy. And right now, federal government, again, not to be political here, is spending money like it's nobody's business. In fact, and again, like, it's tough not to get like uh, to have an opinion about this stuff. But take, for example, in New York State, I live in New York State, and the governor there wants to send more stimulus checks out. Like, you've got to be kidding me, right? That will just reinforce more inflation, right? It's like the equivalent of throwing lighter fluid on a fire. And again, I'm not saying anything outlandish here. This is economics 101. If you continue to increase government spending, the byproduct is inflation. That's just how it works. So in any event, for whatever reason, they're cutting interest, they're going to cut interest rates, and that's not a bad environment for stocks if they are going to continue to be dovish, where they're now actually pulling interest rates another 25 basis points, and the government is still spending money like crazy. Now, that might change next year, and it might change with the tariffs and all of that. But for now, if folks feel very comfy in your big tech names, right? That and like that, and look at the performance of tech today. The Qs were up 1.8%, just a monster day. The Dow was down on the day. IWM, like I said, was up about a 0.5%. What is particularly, and I'm not going to dwell on this because I've been talking about it a lot, and it's why I didn't really do much today in terms of trading. And congrats to everybody else who seems like they've been long and they stayed long and so on and so forth. But I have signals and I try to pay attention to them. I de-risked a couple days ago. I added a couple positions back. I bought Google this morning. I'll review that trade, but this to me is not compelling. You have of the S&P new week lows, you have another 91 companies making a new low today and only 35 making a new high today. That is not good breath. And that this may eventually straighten itself out. But for now, it's keeping me saying, hey, I don't need to jump back into this market. So let's review a couple of these charts. So I mentioned, so this is not updated for today, but I mean, these new lows are pretty decent. So again, I kind of position into some things like small caps, which did not have a good day today, up half a percent. And I have calls on in this. I don't have, which means like a 0.5% is not big enough for calls to work. But so let's go over a couple charts really quickly. All right, so S&P, we did not make, so first of all, nice bounce on the top of the value area. That is where we had support from a very technical aspect, and that is where we bounced right on the top of the value area. So perfect. We did not take out the highs. We kind of struggled with that a little bit. There's a little bit of a bearish divergence, right? And Qs like I said, had a monster day and made it out to new highs. Very, very strong. This is where, since the beginning of this month, this is where it's been at and acted much stronger the last couple days too, where we didn't get a full check back to the 20-day moving average or to the top of the value area like SPY did. SPY didn't come down to the 20-day, but it moved back to the top of the value area. And IWM trying to get above that 5-period moving average. And again, I'm still in some calls like, they're going to be, I risked the amount of money that I wanted to risk. So I'm not stopping myself out of a trade or anything. But we obviously this market needs a breath to pick up for something like small caps to work, which is a 2000 name basket. Let's talk about a couple different names because again, like this is where the momentum is at. Would I buy Apple here? No, I wouldn't. Have I missed this Apple move? I have. This has been very surprising and very strong. Very nice move by Apple. Tesla hit that psychological level of 420. Congrats to the longs. Very nice rip higher. I am long Tesla in the TTG trend portfolio. I've stayed long. So this one, and again, like to me, it's also a little bit easier. Like that's an account that I'm not managing like my trading account, right? So it's a little bit easier to stay in some of these names and just kind of let them do their thing and not watch it every day in my trading count per se, right? But very, very nice. And again, congrats to the long. Google is a cheap name. We've heard about this. I got long. I felt like I missed it yesterday in Google. So there was a small retracement. And again, I'm going back to like the pre-market, but I was watching this morning and it was off the highs. It kind of gave back a little bit. And this is what I watched this morning. I'll just try to zoom in here for you. But I watched the move on the 5-period moving out, the move right on the top of the value area for the day, and that's where I got involved in this name for today. You could see here not 931. So again, I didn't jump in really large. I wish I did. I just didn't feel like buying like that right on the open today. But that was a nice signal. We also saw a little bit of calls, and this thing went off and running for the day. So very nice move. I took some profit targets in this because again, I just haven't really felt that comfortable with the market and the overall breadth. But this did make it out to new highs. So let's see if it continues to run. I needed a catalyst for this name. There really hasn't been much going on in Google, but the fact that, and like I said, I was a little bit slow because I did not get in yesterday, but the fact that they have a quantum computing chip, just opens the door for something new for Google, which I think it's sorely needed. Now, what I found very interesting was that while you know Google's in the quantum space now with this chip, other quantum names sold off a bit. IONQ was down, which has been the leader in this space and the biggest name, in terms of market cap, gave back 9.5% today. RGTI shook off. Who was it? Citron, who was out negative on it. Stock did very well, and this one's been running quite nicely. The other ones have not been doing quite as well. Let me just get those symbols because I forget them. QBTS, that was also down 12% for the day, and QUBT, which is down 16% for the day. So again, it's just interesting how that happens, all right? Google is not making the pie bigger. They're kind of they're taking a big slice out of the same pie for now. That's the space. Now that might change. The quantum computing space might expand in terms of being a bigger market. But for now, it appears that one's taking market share for another, at least in terms of the price action for today. All right. I'm not a quantum computing expert, so please don't come at me and tell me a whole bunch of things about the quantum computing space. I'm just taking note of the price action for today. What was interesting today was that the semis did very well today. Again, this is still a tough looking chart. SMH is inside the value area for the month. The positive thing is here, we're not breaking down, right? I guess that's a positive because this was very close to a breakdown. Nvidia, it just seems like, even though Nvidia had a nice day today, would I buy this chart right here? No, I wouldn't. And that's how I saw a lot of charts today, right? Besides that, the big tech names, I think overall, there's a lot of charts that look like this, kind of like an inside day from yesterday. Case in point, Datadog, like, again, you could just kind of pick and choose a couple symbols in here, but like this is one of them that, okay, it was up today 1%, but really didn't take back any technical ground. And I've got like 15 charts like that, where I see kind of the same thing. Nevertheless, Bitcoin, let's move on, made a really nice move today. Making it back above the psychological 100,000 level, also back above the value area for the month. So if you're in this, also congratulations, very nice. I own some Bitcoin in the TTG trend portfolio. I haven't changed the allocation, but I was getting a little bit nervous about a possible 20-day moving average break. It did not, and let's see if it wants to gear up and start moving higher again. I was going to talk about, since I was in the semi space, Broadcom, we've seen a lot of call action in this one ahead of earnings. Today, they announced a partnership with Apple. Nice move higher. Let's see if it can break through these little VPOCs up here. It took out these two. There's another one up here as well, but reminder that name reports after the close. Last ticker I'm going to cover here in the tech space is AMD. Very interesting to see where this is at in terms of like the longer term technicals. And I'm going to change this to the weekly chart for you. We're sitting here right on the bottom of the value area. Somebody took a shot at this today. Now they do present at a Goldman conference. I think, sorry, I'm not sure if it's they're speaking at a conference tomorrow. I don't think it's Goldman, it's somebody else, but I believe that's at 2 o'clock tomorrow. I will give you the AMD calls that it looked like were purchased for the day. I'm having a trouble bringing this up here right this second, but I believe it was, let's try again, second. I can't find it now. It was the February calls that went up. There it is. February 100 calls that went up $29, and they spent $15 million for that. So that's in the money calls. Sometimes funds do that, right? They can still get leverage, and the delta is close to 1 on that position. So it almost acts like a stock, right? Because the delta is so high in that option. But regardless, that's what somebody did today, and maybe saying that this 127 level will hold and the stock will bounce from there. Again, that value area is based on all of last year's volume at price and becomes a very significant level. I'll leave you with an energy name, which made a nice move. And to get, speaking of the weekly chart, to get back above value, this is a name that we've seen some call buying in. This is EQT. If you're looking for something in the space, this is what I would be watching, and watch support of 44.53. Guys, have a great night, and see you tomorrow.